Rendered in a Seussian style and disguised as a children's book, this is a Lovecraftian fable, a genre intimately tied to existential dread. Welcome to Cosmic Horror. We'll have fun, tentacles, and mystery for the whole family. This isn't really family friendly, but we're all going to discuss how to bring existential dread to your tabletop games, as well as how to make it both memorable and cinematic. But at what cost? For in the tabletop landscape, where there are so many systems like D&D and Pathfinder that are built to position you, the protagonist, to become an empowered hero, how do we let that go and stand powerless in the wake of the unknown? While many of us do find the allure in cosmic horror, with its crushing weight of the unfathomable universe and an ever-looming sense of dread, I recognize that this is not for everyone. If you don't want this genre at your table, I fully support you, but I do implore you to stay for the video because we're going to get into some fun history and lore. Besides, D&D's sheer popularity always ensues that it gets a spotlight, but I'm going to highlight some other systems that honestly outclass it in this genre. Before we can get into translating our subject to tabletop, we first have to understand what cosmic horror actually is, and there is a lot of incredible resources to point to. While H.P. Lovecraft is considered the father of it, I actually want to start several decades earlier with a book that seemed to have served as a direct inspiration for Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos, The King in Yellow. Written by Robert W. Chambers and first published in 1895, this is a collection of some poetry and 9 short stories. The book itself is named after an eponymous play that acts as a recurring theme through the first 4 stories. The King in Yellow would use its innocuous first act to draw a reader in. Then, upon reading the second, irresistible truths beyond comprehension are revealed, and as their minds shatter, madness sets in, leading every reader to face an untimely end. Aligning the first story, the Repairer of Reputations sums this up quite well. Quote, "The very banality and innocence of the first act only allowed the blow to fall afterward with more awful effect." End quote. It's hard not to notice the association of yellow in horror with existential dread and anxiety. The King in Yellow, the yellow wallpaper, or any of the plethora of yellow symbolism in the horror genre. It's prolific. Yet, in cosmic horror, I haven't found a prevalence of the color yellow. Outside, of course, its relationship with the King in Yellow and, in extension, Hastur, which, depending on who you talk to, is either the King in Yellow itself, the entity of one of the other king's avatars, or something else entirely, whether place or thing. Seriously, there's a lot of contention on this. But Chambers' work here provides us insight into the inspiration that led to Lovecraft's creations.
The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown.
Lovecraft lived by his own philosophy known as cosmicism, the idea that humanity and its doings are rather insignificant when it comes to the cosmos at large. This is the basis for our subject, a universe that is indifferent to us. Ironically, a cruel universe is almost more humane because it at least gives us the dignity of recognizing our existence. And it's from this loneliness, this insignificance, that Cthulhu and the Elder Gods rise as that greater indifference. Much of Lovecraft's work that laid the foundation for what we know as cosmic horror today, he wrote in the 1920s and 30s. Even with his death in 1937, the work did not stop, as it was carried on by a group of his friends known as the Lovecraft Circle, with his work further being expanded on as it moved into the public domain. All of this led to the rise of the Cthulhu mythos, and in turn, to possibly the most popular cephalopod ever put to paper, the Mind Flayer. Though whether illithids were more inspired by the Cthulhu mythos or Cthulhu itself, we don't know. Cosmic horror makes you feel so small. This concept contradicts what Pf2e is structured for, to make you a hero. Yes, a level 1 wizard could die easily from one weak hit, but the power creep is real. And if that wizard makes it to level 20, they're damn near a demigod. That is a journey of strength, not insignificance. for this genre, we have to be able to feel the cracks in our facade. That existential dread has to be able to find a place to root and fester. The original Japanese audio here is so much stronger than its dubbed counterpart, and actually relates to what we're discussing. The reason I laugh is to distract myself from the pressures of being a hero, and from my inner fears. This quote is from All Might, the #1 hero in My Hero Academia. He's the Superman of that word, and yet, this sentence shows us that no matter your power or status, everyone has vulnerability, even in a society of heroes, which, while the ratio of hero to civilian may be different, systems like 5e and Pathfinder still foster a society of heroes. It's here that I would want to introduce Fear and Hunger, a brutal pixel art game from 2018. It is a journey of both power and discovery, but in a world that is so consistently unrelenting and unforgiving that you most often end up forgettable and insignificant. Not to mention, amputation is literally a combat mechanic. Ultimately, this game is cruel and not for the faint of heart, yet the looming presence of existential dread in Fear and Hunger absolutely aligns with our subject. But these concepts and mechanics don't really mirror the mainstream hero experience that we're currently discussing. Instead, they are much more closely aligned with things like Zweihander, a hardcore game for a particular crowd. The structure and pacing of FromSoft's Bloodborne, however, is going to look much more familiar. So let's start there. After being treated to some unsettling imagery, we awake in your cells. Unarmed and unprepared, our adventure is very quickly cut short. Only now we awaken in the hunter's dream. So much for meeting in a tavern. Bloodborne starts so strong because it is so clear in its tone. You are not in control.
Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream.
Your insignificance is literally introduced to you as you start this story, a full injection of existential dread. It makes us question everything and immediately sets us on a path of discovery. The world is quite unforgiving, and yet, once you get a weapon and start to understand the mechanics, you learn that you are not helpless. And in fact, between leveling up and acquiring new equipment, you learn that you are dangerous. Yet, there always seems to be something scarier than you. Always something looming that you don't quite understand, and even if you did, it is so far beyond your comprehension that even in glimpsing this knowledge, you would never be the same. In systems like 5e, we can accomplish this same thing and lay a strong foundation for our subject by focusing atmosphere over action. I'm not saying get rid of combat. I mean, look at Bloodborne. It's a central feature of the game, and yet it delivers existential dread in an impactful way. What I am saying is that we need to focus on and elevate the narrative to truly invoke cosmic horror. There are many approaches to this, and we don't actually have to start subtly. Bloodborne didn't. But the continued flow of information should only trickle in. Lovecraft mentioned the fear of the unknown, and that's where a lot of the power lies. Any good cosmic horror is a mystery waiting to be pieced together. And when the reveal arrives, unlike a creature feature in which the revealed creature often loses power with the audience, the reveal of our subject typically only leads to more questions, and when done right, is satisfying and is not a cop-out. Just look to the end of Junji Ito's Uzumaki, or the incredible story of Signalis, neither of which I will spoil for you as they are best experienced firsthand. These reveals often lead the characters spiraling into madness because the knowledge they discover is beyond what their brains can comprehend. It'd be like you or I experiencing the 5th dimension, only to be returned to our present 3rd, and then trying to process what the hell just happened. All of this wraps together to turn sanity into a measurable stat. In fact, In the Dungeon Master's Guide for 5th edition, we find optional rules for variations of sanity when visiting the outer planes. But let's step away from the hero system and look at one that is built for cosmic horror, where sanity is not just measurable, but an integral mechanic of your character. Call of Cthulhu. No, not that one. Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu, where knowledge equates to peril, not power. Since its release in 1981, this system has centered around the insignificance of its protagonists. Yes, you can triumph, and yes, you can prevent an eldritch horror from wreaking havoc on the world, but your actions come with a cost. I think there's no better person to describe this than the author of Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu himself, Sandy Petersen. The following is taken from an article he wrote for RPG Geek back in 2011. I'll link it below. Quote, "In Call of Cthulhu, you played a puny, pedantic neurotic, plagued by nightmares and horrors beyond human comprehension. It was a nightmare rather than a dream. Rarely has a game been more out of sync with its contemporaries, but oddly enough, I think this is the secret of Call of Cthulhu's success. It's contrarian. If you don't like the heroic subtext of other RPGs, you can be as inferior as you like in COC. And of course, since you are just a helpless mortal, any success you have is magnified. No one's impressed when a D&D party kills a werewolf, but when you face off against such a fearsome beast in COC and survive, it's a tale worth retelling." End quote. Since you are just a helpless mortal, any success you have is magnified. This single line highlights the difference I've been referencing. In COC and other systems like it, you survive, but in D&D and Pathfinder, you thrive. In these hero systems, in these thriving conditions, you can typically infer how long a character has been adventuring based off their general power level and equipment. Yet, in Call of Cthulhu, the indicator for how much time an investigator has committed is measured in how low their sanity regularly sits. In essence, how many scars have they received from healing wounds, both mental and physical? When we are dealing with the sanity type mechanics, it's important to recognize that at some point, the associated consequences will begin to parallel real-world traumas. If we take a look at any discussion board around the sanity mechanic in COC, we often find themes that suggest the sanity mechanic feels too extreme, takes too much agency away from the character, and ultimately makes light of real-world mental health issues. Which brings us to communication. Cosmic horror can provide an incredible experience, whether you inject it into a hero system like D&D, use a vessel built for it like Call of Cthulhu, or perhaps something in between like Blades in the Dark or Zweihander. Irregardless of the vehicle that you choose, as we veer into more taboo and possibly triggering content, we have to set expectations and discuss tolerances, boundaries, and safety tools with our table. Comfort levels are of course going to look different because every group has a different dynamic, but it's important that we still have these conversations because as long as our table is safe, we can explore any subject we want, like cosmic horror. This is a genre that keeps you guessing, even after the reveal drop. We feel its presence across so much media. It's pervasive and infectious in the best possible way. The more you see it, the more knowledge you gain, and the more you stare into the madness of the cosmos, the more consuming that madness becomes. So until I see you again, keep that imagination active and enjoy gaming.